Okay, hello everybody. I am here with Dan Coyle, the amazing author of one of my all-time favorite books, The Talent Code, which I've given several copies out to many people I work with. And today we're going to be talking about his new book, The Culture Code, which, as you can see, I've been doing a little work with because there are so many amazing concepts here for leaders and the people that I work with in terms of how to boost the performance of teams. And a lot of it, I feel, is both it makes sense once you hear Dan's stories and research, but the ideas are kind of counterintuitive. And I want to give an example right away. So, Dan, I think you have an amazing example of something that is counterintuitive and yet really effective, of how a very, very small leader-based intervention in training led to a huge change in retention with this call center company in India called Wipro.
They're called Wipro, yeah, and they were a call center with a pretty common problem, which is kind of like lack of engagement. Like their workers sort of had one foot in and one foot out, which makes sense. Call centers are not particularly fun places to work. They were losing like 100% or 50% of their workforce each year. So they tried all the usual things, and none of them worked. And they basically were trying to think about belonging in a new way. So they tried this different experiment. It was kind of a crazy experiment. It lasted just 1 hour.
Right.
They took one group and they put them through a little extra special training, which was, instead of having the usual orientation where a worker would hear all about Wipro and hear all about meet a star performer and hear about how cool a place it was to work, instead they flipped it. And they started asking questions of the employees, of the new employees, saying, hey, what happens on your best day? Tell me what happens on your worst day. Tell me, if we were on a desert island and we all had to survive, what special skills would you bring? So it was a really short, simple conversation, but they just flipped the dynamic. And then they tracked it. They said, well, is this group going to stick around longer? And it turned out 7 months later, it had a 270% boost in retention. That tiny moment caused a gigantic leap in the connection people felt to Wipro.
And this is what's really, I want everyone to get, because those questions and everything that I read had nothing explicitly to do with working at Wipro or what their job would consist of, but it triggered this subconscious set of what you call belonging cues.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We think of chemistry and belonging. You know that click you feel when you walk into a room that you feel connected to, or that feeling you have around a special group? It feels like magic. It's not magic. Like, it's not magic. That's you getting a belonging cue. That's you receiving it. And so that's a sense that we are connected. It's a clear cue. We share a future. We are connected. This is safe. And by flipping that dynamic in that room, Wipro delivered a high-density burst of belonging cues of caring, saying we care, we see you as an individual, we are connected. And then that had this gigantic effect. You know, we think of belonging as magic, but it's not. There's a physics there. And if you learn physics, you can really change the effectiveness in your leadership. It's not magic, it's leadership.
So is the key for every leader to just ask a bunch of random emotional questions and then suddenly they'll magically get great results?
Not quite. But it is to be keenly aware, to actively and relentlessly connect, to individuals. When it's natural in a position of authority just to sort of glide past. Sometimes when you get to a position of authority, it becomes easy. But the leaders I see who are effective at doing this are ones who are continually connecting to individuals, and it can be really simple, as this interview showed. It can be asking simple questions. It can be sending a simple signal that we're connected. It can be picking up trash off the floor.
Right. You give some examples, really surprising examples of CEOs going around doing cleaning mops and picking up trash. What is that about?
It's about think about it when you see the most powerful person in your organization picking up a tiny scrap of paper off the floor. It takes a second. But like any belonging cue, it contains a lot of information. It says a message, we care about this environment. It sends a message, you're not above me. I'm not above you, that we are equal here. And it sends a message that you take care of each other in this place, So it's this dense signal that can get delivered in a really quick time. I mean, we think about leadership as little things. We always know that leadership, is all about the little things. But when you think about the power of a small signal of belonging and safety, this is how our brains are built, to always be worried about that condition. The amygdalas of our brains are constantly ready to see if they see a small signal that this tribe isn't safe, that this group somehow isn't safe. All of our energy will go toward getting out of it. We'll sort of check out. We will have one foot in and one foot out. So good leaders they're like radio stations. They're like Wi-Fi, just broadcasting these steady signals. We're connected. I care. We share a future together.
And so the last thing I want to touch on here is something I was very excited to see in your research, because in all my work with groups, I talk about how the negative default brain system of scanning the environment and always looking for social threats. Am I in? Am I out? Am I liked? Am I disliked? And how that takes up a lot of cognitive bandwidth that really saps our creativity. And your research found something I'd never seen before, that the amygdala, the alarm system of the brain, can switch from being a threat detector to a social bonder.
Isn't that amazing? Right. It goes from being a guard dog telling you to get out of there, to being a guide dog. It actually pays keen attention to the faces of those around you. It takes all that. We talk about the amygdala being sort of the lizard brain, ready for us to fight or flight, but it's actually also part of our connective brain. So it's this top-down reconfigurative response that we have. Think about your favorite groups. Think about how you can recognize each other across a great distance. Think about what you feel when you see their faces. That's the amygdala in action. And so by delivering belonging cues, you're switching on sort of these primal circuits that allow us to really connect deeply to those around us. So you don't just get this benefit of flipping off the fight or flight response. You get this benefit of flipping on this intense caring response. That's where the 270% comes from. It's not just that they turned them off. It's that they turned them on and they said, this is a place for me. And it doesn't take long to deliver that cue.
So this is fantastic. So first of all, the takeaway from this video is to be sending the cues to people from day one, but throughout, that they belong, that they are safe to take risks, and if they are included in the group, if they are accepted by the group, that guard dog turns into that pack animal, right, that can collaborate, innovate, and cooperate on an entirely new level.
Perfect. Well put.
Great. Okay, we're done for now.